Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you that I know personally, Lou Cardenas. Luis is the owner and president of Bargain Movers. Welcome to the show, Luis.
Hey, thanks, Otto. Pleasure to be here, man.
Thank you. I know this is a long time that I've been waiting for this, so I'm very anxious and excited to get this thing rolling. For people who may not know what is Bargain Movers, if you can just briefly explain to them who is Bargain Movers.
Yeah, not a problem. Bargain Movers is a small family-owned and operated moving company based here in Montgomery County. We relocate residential, commercial. We provide storage services for all your relocation needs.
Fantastic. Are you originally from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area?
Yeah, I actually grew up here. I grew up in Montgomery County, grew up in Rockville. I was native here. I went to Richmond Montgomery High School and stayed here until I went to college. I went to school up in Pennsylvania and then came back to Montgomery County. So I know this area pretty well.
So growing up, most of your youth, you would say, was in Montgomery County, Rockville area, right?
Yeah, it was all here from Rockville and Twin Brook area. And then now, we live up in Clarksburg area now, and just I've seen the transformation of Montgomery County where when, King Farm, when I grew up, was actually a farm. We didn't have all these townhouses and single family homes out there and everything. So it's evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big change in this area. Growing up in Montgomery County, do you remember? I want to take you briefly back to your youth days. What were
Yeah.
you into? What did you like? Any activities or sports that?
Yeah, man. I'm an only child, so I had to kind of find things to do as an only child, right? So I got really involved with sports. I was a competitive swimmer. I played football. I played soccer, all through elementary, junior, and high school. Uh, and then I also worked at a lot of restaurants locally, growing up. So at 15, started working in restaurants, Bennigan's, Houston's, you name it. So those are the kind of things that occupied my time as growing up here.
With swimming, I'm curious, did you do it all through, I guess, elementary, junior, high school, or when did you stop with that?
Yeah, I did it through high school. I was actually a
Okay.
competitive. I was a competitive swimmer. I swam at RMSC for quite some time. So there was 5 a.m. practices, and then you'd go back after school and you'd have your 4:30 practice and so forth. So I was real competitive up until high school, and then in high school I kind of weaned off and I didn't go to college, but I was an all Met all county swimmer in Montgomery County.
Oh, wow. I was asking just as you know, I have three boys, and I always try to expose them to different things and activities or sports, whatever they sort of like. And one of the main things my wife and I was swimming. They've done soccer, basketball. My middle one just recently did flag football. He doesn't want to continue with it, but I think swimming is such a great sport as far as your development. But making the team, you have to be pretty good. I'm just talking about personal experience right now dealing with my younger ones.
Yeah, no, I mean I love the sport. It is something that uses every part of your body, and whether you know it or not, you're getting a great workout and staying in shape by just swimming. And I love the water. I was always in the water no matter what, and it's your time. You like kind of zone out. You're under there. The competition is what I really liked. I
Okay.
was a sprinter, so when you're sprinting, you got 2 laps of the pool to go, and you're just like corner of your eye looking at it because it's tenths of a second that separate first and third, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of just was invigorating. I love that part of it. But yeah, man, I actually started trying to get back into swimming now. 25, whatever years later.
Yeah.
Um, because as we get older now and you haven't done anything, you need something to kind of keep that body going, because we might think we're 25 in our head, but that body doesn't react the same way anymore.
Yeah. So are you actually getting back into it? Because I know you have a pool in the community where you live. So do you ever go get laps in?
Yep, I do every so often, once a week or so, when I get some time out of here to go swim. I enjoy that, but it's like anything. You get back in the pool, you're like, wow, man, I used to be able to swim 20 laps like it was nothing. Not anymore.
Hey, I'm sure if you do it consistently, you'll get up there again. Yeah.
Well, we got to do something, right? I mean, and because again, as we're approaching older age and everything, if we concentrate all our efforts and work, then the body just kind of
Hmm.
fizzles out, and then you can't do things that you want to do. So swimming will hopefully get me back into that.
So you mentioned after high school, you went up to Pennsylvania for college, right?
Yep. So I went up to Shippensburg University. I actually went to go play football at college. Yeah. So I was recruited from by Shippensburg to play college, to play football up there, but I wasn't. There was no money. I mean, I was not getting a scholarship. It was a
Sure.
D2 D3 school, and then at that time I had hair down to here. Okay,
Really?
I had long hair. Yeah, man.
You need to show me one of those pictures one day.
I don't know. Go find one. Very few and far between now. But as soon as they told me that I had to, as a freshman, I had to shave my head. I said, "Nah, man, I'm not cutting my hair." So I didn't play football, because I wasn't going to be a starter. I was going to probably, be second string there or whatnot, and I wasn't shaving my head. It's just what it came down to. And then I said no. So I didn't play. I didn't play football there. But my roommate was a football player. I hung out with some of the guys that I had met up there. Spent a few years there, but actually had to get called back after my first semester. Unfortunately, that was '93. So my father battled cancer throughout his life. And that was the first time my father was diagnosed with cancer. So I came home for him and his surgery and everything, and was here for about a year. And I went to Montgomery College. And then talking to a good friend of mine and from high school, who I still talk to this day, and we were just chatting about what was going on, what are you gonna do, and so forth. And she said, "Lou, you got to go back to college. You can't. You got to get back, because this is what you need to do. This is your future," and so forth. So I took her advice, and I said, "Yeah, I got to go." My dad was okay; he was recovering, so I went back up to Shippensburg, and then I finished up there with a speech communication major, and then after school settled back down here, and found some friends, got some roommates, and started working in the restaurants again, because that's what I know, and then started looking for a job, just like anybody out of college.
What'd you end up finding?
So when I came, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm a speech comm major. I'm a liberal arts guy. So, at that time, I didn't really understand what a skill set of communication was. Just knew how to talk. So they're like sales jobs. This is what my dean told me. He's like, "You're going to be a great salesperson." I said, "Okay." So I went and I actually interviewed with a Sprint, the telecom. And at that time, Sprint was divided into wireless and wireline divisions. And my job was going to be to sell long distance. So I was selling long distance at 6 and 7 cents per minute, right? And that's where it all started. And I was fortunate to get started there. Sprint taught me a lot in the 4 years that I was there, or 4 or 5 years that I was there. Yeah. They've got a great corporate structure foundation in training. Things that I did not know that I was learning there that I applied to this business, right? So a funny thing is that when we get there, I was 23 years old, and we had to learn the Sprint story, right? The story of where it came from, who they are, and all this. I'm like, and nobody wants to hear your Sprint story. I'm a young kid and blah, 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 and this, but we had to learn it. Funny enough, today, my business is about our story, right? Where did we come from? It's just a different feel when it's organically homegrown to you versus a corporate story, right? Yeah. But I learned that from there to create the story and use those, that into our business here today. But I also learned from a lot of great people that I worked with. I mean, two of the guys that were mentors to me when I started there, one of them is my financial advisor today. And the other one I still talk to probably once a week.
Wow.
At least, right? Yeah, because I was really green. These guys were a couple years, 3-4 years older than me. They were up mid-market enterprise level, and I was general business, and they just kind of took me under their wing and showed me things, and I just listened to them. And again, long lasting forged relationships and friendships for, 25 years now. Wow.
So you were selling to general businesses when you started, right?
Yeah. So general business was mom and pop, long distance, what's your bill? Can I save you some money? And
Mm-hmm.
I called it dialing for dollars. I was in a huddle room, little conference room, 50 to 75 calls a day, giving them a pitch, getting hung up on. Okay. Every no gets you closer to a yes, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I did that for some time until I kind of moved up market. So I started in general business. Then I went to mid market and stayed there until I got recruited to do another job. But
Yeah.
one of the cool things that people sometimes don't realize is what your skill sets really are, right? And what I mean by that is, I remember one time I had a conversation with my it wasn't even my manager. It was the mid-market level manager. And I was wanting to get on his team, right? I wanted to grow. And I said to him, hey, we're having a conversation. And I said, I just don't know what I want to do. If it's going to be this direction here selling, I don't have a skill set. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I can't just go get a job. And he looked at me and said, Lou, you've got the greatest skill set there is ever. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, you can communicate with people. I sat there and pondered. It's like, after he told me that, I looked at it in a completely different perspective, and it really launched me into a different frame of mind to where today, yeah, my skill set is communication. And without that, people can't do anything, right? So he reframed my mind in that, and then I grew from there with him. And I went to President's Club a couple of years with them, top 10 in the country for sales, and from there I got recruited to go work for the banks. I'm very close to a lot of my fraternity brothers from college, and one of my fraternity brother's sister was working for a wholesale lender at the time, Long Beach Mortgage, back when subprime existed, if you know what that is and everything, right? So she recruited me, kept asking me to come over, and I'm like, I'm fine. I'm at President's Club. I'm making 6 figures. What more do I need? She said, come have lunch with me. I said, okay, I'm going to have lunch with her. She sat me down. She literally pulled out a spreadsheet. She says, these are my sales reps. Here's their comp checks for the last 6 months. I quit Sprint the next day. And I left and go to work for her. I did. I built my own desk. Okay, this was in the fires of lending. Like it was just going gangbuster, right?
It was like early 2000,
2004.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So 2004, I think it started, where I literally there was no room in the office. It was just growing so fast, and there was no desks or anything. Terry was like, "We got to get you a desk. Here you go. Go buy a desk. Bring it in." So I went to IKEA, wherever, bought a desk, spent that evening there, built the desk. I mean, I'm talking a little station, right? No more than that. Built the desk, got to work, and I worked on a team because I didn't know anything about lending, so forth. So I came to be part of a team that he was. We were very fortunate. We had a lot of good guys there. He was like top 5 in the country for lending for Long Beach. Yeah. Wow. And I spent a year with him, working, understanding the business, whatever. I said, okay, I told you I'd give you a year. Let me go. And I left, and then it started my own career with them. But that was short-lived, because we all know what happened. I was in with him with 2004 to 2005. So I had late 5, 06, 07 myself. It's great. It's just raining money. And then it crashed.
When you sat down with her that day, I think you said she said meet her for lunch, and you saw those numbers and you immediately quit. What were the numbers you saw compared to what you were making over at Sprint, if you remember?
These guys were making easily 50 grand a month.
Okay. So you're like, I'm done with Sprint.
I'm done with Sprint. I had, my best year at Sprint was probably over $250,000, right? It's great. Loving it. But then you look at the possibility over here. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm out of here. So I left. I was just amazed because on my team, right, I could see my comp check and I could see my partner's comp check because I'd take a ride off of that, right?
Yeah.
That first year, man, these comp checks, at that time, these comp checks were pushing 6 figures a month. It was unheard of. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to find that again. It was just the anomaly in the market, and we happen to be in the right place. Now, I didn't make those comp checks. Let's just be clear, right? Because after I launched off, I had 2 years before it all, crashed and everything. But we did well. It was just it was a lucrative business.
Lou, being exposed at such a young age in your 20s to high producers, whether in telecom with Sprint or even in lending, and you becoming yourself a top producer as well, are there any specific traits you feel that they had that you had that, maybe someone listening here can be like, hey, maybe I need to pick some of these things up. Maybe it'll help me in my business or in my career. What sets them apart?
One of the biggest things I would have to say, discipline, dedication, work ethic. The people who have that will succeed. It's kind of like that fight or flight mentality. These people are all going to fight. They're never going to run away. That's just their nature. That's their characteristic. And that's what really gets you to where you need to be if you want to get to a certain level, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is a grind, no matter what. I don't care what people tell you and, oh, this is, whatever, easy to get here. Not. It's not. It's a daily grind. And if you're not willing to put in the time and the effort into that daily grind, you're not going to succeed, right? Nothing just comes of nothing. So I'd say those 3 things are really what I see in them then, and I still see with people I talk to today from a business perspective, right? And then you got to be accountable, right, for what you're doing, and then that goes in with customer service. It's like an evolution of things that kind of just build upon one another, and when you can piece all those little things together, you've got a great customer experience, and the rest will kind of just write itself into people recognizing that.
Was there anything you did, maybe any specific activity that you remember that when you started in Sprint, as you were there for 4 to 5 years, started off green, didn't know much, and then moving up to, you said, middle market, and then making 6 figures or multiple 6 figures there when you left? Was there anything that sort of, besides that talk with your manager, that's switched your perspective, but as far as activity is concerned, was there anything there that you changed?
So I think it was the actual just doing the work, right? Learning from the people around me. I say this a lot to my staff and so forth. We are the sum of the 5 people we surround ourselves with most, right? So choose wisely. So the people around me, like, I didn't hang around too much of my general business folks. I was hanging out with the mid-market and the enterprise people, seeing what they were doing and just looking, learning, and copying those skill set. Or, I'd be walking down the hall there, and Crane, one of my buddy who was a mentor of mine there, he's like, the golden hours, Cardenas, what are you doing? Where are those phones at? And yeah, he's right. I got to get on these phones. I've not made my 50 calls today, right? That kind of like an accountability partner. Mm-hmm. So I say, and they look out for you. And I think people can real recognize is real, right? So if people can see that in you, they're going to be willing to lend you a hand and kind of pull you through, because they don't want to waste their time. But truly successful people, I believe, just want to see other people successful.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I pulled from there. And again, 25 years later, I'm still friends with these guys.
Yeah.
I've even moved people I worked with 25 years ago that I worked with at Sprint, right? That found me and called me, hey, Lou,
Yeah. And I'm sure these habits too, Lou, that you built back then have helped with you and your business as well.
Yeah, it's all building upon a foundation, right? And another thing which people don't do too often, or I didn't do, is reading. Okay, get into some books that will really teach you and change your mindset. You know, I've read books from, Think and Grow Rich to Infinite Possibilities to, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all the basic books that you have out there that every salesperson knows about. But reading them, applying those skills that you learn from there to your daily activity, your daily routine, and the world changes. I tell you, one of the books I read, I forget even who referred it to me, but it was by Mike Dooley. It's called Infinite Possibilities. Okay. And it had nothing to do with the business and sales. It was about mindset, right? So one of the biggest things, takeaways from there, is that your thoughts become things. Okay. That's so powerful. And if you apply it, it works. Like, it took me through the visualization techniques of, prior to going to bed, I would visualize about where I was going, what I was going to accomplish, never worrying about the details. Don't worry about the details. Let the universe take care of that. But I practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And lo and behold, what I visualized back then has all come to fruition, right? The trucks, the people, the company, the family, the all of it, right? But I think people don't think in that way, and they don't have that mindset. And you can't do anything, I believe, until you have a proper mindset, because you can learn all the skills in the world, but if you don't have the mindset to apply those skill sets to your daily routine, what's that? Action without work is crap.
Yeah. It's so true. Now that you mentioned these books, it just reminds me myself growing up. I grew up in the city in DC and then moved to Maryland. And still my environment, let's say the community, the neighborhood I was in, it wasn't the best schools. I wasn't growing up with doctors and lawyers as neighbors, and you're still in this environment, but it was through books. I remember, mostly business, or let's say self-help books, what they call it, with mindset and changing your perspective, that sort of opened my horizons and just shifting my thinking. Because a lot of people where I grew up, some of them barely finished high school, barely even went to college. And I went to college, graduated and everything, and it's not the norm. But the books, just like you said, it changed my perspective and my mindset.
Yeah. It was so important to me, that little bit, that one takeaway, that when my daughter's 8, and when I would carry her up to bed every day, every night, it was me who would carry her up to bed. And from a young age, 6 months, year, whatever, I would whisper in her ear, your thoughts become things. Your thoughts become things. And I would say this 5 to 10 times, carrying her to bed for a couple of years. One day, I think she was like 5 years old, and I said, "Hey, Angie," I said, "your thoughts become things, Daddy." That little chip that I just planted in my daughter will change her life forever, because I know it would have if I would have known that at a young age and comprehended it, right? So, these things really make an impact.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So you leave the lending industry, and then what happens next? I know there's a history and everything behind Bargain Mover. So what happens to your career afterwards?
Yeah, so I left the lending industry by by default, because it blew up, right? Everything came to a crashing end in 2008, because I was working with subprime. Subprime was, the joke of lending, of who everybody get a loan. And then I went into the A paper side with Washington Mutual. And at one point, it was just, they were shutting down. Everything was getting closed. My dad got sick at the same time in late 2008.
Cancer again.
cancer again. Yep. He got sick again. This time it was stage 4 colon cancer. So I said, all right, my dad's a stubborn old Colombian man. Okay. Would not sit at home, just kept wanting to go to work, just wouldn't take it. Did not believe he had cancer. Okay. So look, Dad, I'm going to come help out. All right. I need you to be at home and relax. I'll take care of this for a little bit until you're ready to come back. Cause I didn't have a job. I needed something to do. So I stepped in and I came into his company, and I started from nothing there, really, and what I mean by that is that my dad had an antiquated system. It had already been around for, I think, 25 years, probably, yeah, 25 years, but it was a far cry from the heydays of what it was in the 80s, because my father not only had cancer, but he was going through dementia. And a stubborn man going through dementia does not let you lead to believe, that things are going awry. So when I had to come in and step in, I was like, okay, asked my dad a few questions, and more of this, I didn't want anything to do with moving. Okay. Like, I went on my first truck when I was 12 years old. Okay. And the truck broke down, and we were going to New York, and I was with his guys, and I was like, I just want to go. I want to go on a trip. It was the most horrible trip for me that I was like, I'm done. Right. Yeah. But we are put where we are needed. Okay. And my family needed me for that right then and there. And I told my dad, I said, relax, I got it. I stepped in, and I had to make some changes. It just wasn't operating. There was 2 trucks. There was 5 guys now versus, what he had way back when. And things were kind of just falling apart because his mind was going. Things weren't being done properly. He was still antiquated. There was still a fax machine, and this is, 2008. Okay. There was no website presence. There was just nothing there. So when I came in, I looked at everything he had. I had to kind of understand the moving business because I didn't know moving. My dad did it an unorthodox way of, there's math behind all this, but anyhow, after a few months, I was like, okay, this has got wheels. There's viability here. I can do something if needed. And I kept holding it together until, unfortunately, in 2010, my father passed. So when my father passed, it was like, I didn't have to be there. I didn't have to run a company anymore just to keep him happy at home, but I already put 2 years of my time into this and started restructuring. So I again, my previous careers taught me skill sets and things that I could implement from, corporate policies and corporate structure into a blue collar labor industry. So I started applying these little things, and it just kind of started working. It started growing by little, and then, getting recognized. Some things that I had to do is, as a story, my father created SEO before there was even SEO. Okay. What I mean by this is that he had 2 companies. He had American Moving Company and Bargain Movers. Okay. He had a phone on the left side of his desk and a phone on the right side of his desk. Back in the 80s and 90s, when you needed something, what did you do?
Yellow pages.
Yeah. So you open up the A's, you call AAA movers, you call 5A movers, and you get to American Moving, you call them, right? Flip the page, you get to the B's. Hey, there's Bargain Movers. I'm going to call B, Bargain Movers. So he was optimizing that yellow pages as best he could in hustling on both sides. It's like, okay, yeah, it was interesting. But I said, I'm shutting one down. I want to one company, one business, do one thing well. Yeah. Right. And I chose Bargain Movers. It had a little bit more in a business coming in on that side of it. It was a little catchier to me. I liked the little logo and the truck that we had back then and everything. So I just grew it from there. It was, every little bit was another truck, and then finding new space, and then growing into a warehouse where I could have, storage areas versus when I first started, my materials I would have to keep in the size of a 5x5 closet. All right, that's like ridiculous now, right? All
Yeah.
I would have boxes every day and everything. And then at one point, I think it was like probably 2015. 15, yeah, somewhere 14, yeah, 2013, 2014, probably about 5 years in, I got my first operations manager, somebody who could help with what I was doing. And when I was able to afford somebody like that, then that's when I started adding a truck a year, and just growing upon that until we came to the point here. We've got 7 trucks, and that's it, and that's all we want. I people laugh, but I call it riding the wave. Okay. Getting bigger is not necessarily the solution to everything, because, what are your goals? First of all, what do you want? Okay. For me, it was quality of life, and obviously to make some money. Okay. But I found a nice rhythm of certain revenue point that allowed me a lifestyle and flexibility in life to just maintain. And that was, we could do with 7 trucks and a staff of 20. So I've kept it here. Today I've got an operations manager, a sales manager, and my office manager. So I have 3 people basically running things for me so that I can oversee it now. But that was all within the last 6 months. Okay. I always had, from 2014, I had an operations/sales guy that would help me. But now I took one of my drivers who'd been with me for 10 years. I said, look, I know this is not what you always, want to do forever here. So I think you warrant the opportunity to run the operations. You know the job inside and out. You're going to handle the trucks. You're going to handle the crews. You're going to handle all the stuff that happens on that end of it. And he's here to, with me now 6 months doing in that role, and allowed my sales guy to concentrate more on sales. So you wouldn't have to be doing what the operation, because that's what he was doing his first 2 years with me. Right. Because we're small. And now it's humming, right? You get to a point, but this is 15 years after I started, right? It's not an overnight thing. It's a grind, right? Yes, I could have hired these people before, probably years ago, now that I look at it, but I wanted to get a company in place that was going to be able to be run by these people, meaning your biggest asset outside of your guys that work for you and your staff, for us, is our trucks. So like when I took over the business, the trucks were falling apart. I had to get them fixed. Then didn't have money. I had to go buy used trucks. Oh, that became, I inherited somebody else's problem. So about 3-4 years ago, I bought my first brand new truck, $110,000. Wow. Didn't think I would do it, but I weighed my options of purchasing, leasing, buying another used truck, so forth. Best thing I ever did. So over the course of those last years here and grinding it out, is that we bought a truck we've bought a new truck every single year for the last 4 or 5 years now. So now you've got your vehicles that don't need the frequent maintenance because they're newer trucks and they have longevity to them. These trucks can run 200,000, 250,000 miles, right? And we're putting 25,000 miles a year on them. So, you got 10 years of longevity of a truck there. So when you don't have those problems and those headaches, and you got people doing things, in their silos, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, you can't see it, but on my wall here, there are 8 goals that I had written down 10 years ago, and it's still taped to my wall. And one of them, number 4, create defined silos and workflow for office staff. Took me 15 years to get there, but it got there. And it's just creating that environment that other people can thrive in now, that I don't have to work the 12 hours a day, because that's what I did. I was selling everything, during COVID. Okay. February of 2020, I had to let go of my previous operations guy for some other reason, right? So we separated. March of 2020, COVID hit. Wow. Okay, what are we going to do? Well, this industry went through the roof, just like all the real estate and everything else. We didn't have the downturn, but I had no operations salesperson. My office manager has got a compromised immune system, so she wasn't going out anywhere. I sat here for a whole year by myself in this office and ran this company while scanning and sending stuff to Martina at home, but answering the calls, dispatching, running everything. All of it, man. Okay, if you're not willing to do that yourself, you can't expect to get to where you want to be. Okay, because all that revenue that came in for that, it just springboarded us and allowed us. I think that year I bought 2 trucks that year, right? Because I didn't have a payroll, I didn't have people to pay, but I was willing to do the work. And if you're, again, not willing to do it, then you're just going to be in la la land.
You mentioned earlier, Lou, about riding the wave, and right now you're happy with 7 trucks. So do you see yourself 7 trucks and that's it, or maybe it may change in the future? I don't know.
I really see myself here, man. I like, it's manageable.
Okay.
Right. And what I mean by manageable is that, I've got an office manager. I've got the 3 people here that work for me. Could they handle more? Probably. Would I have to oversee more? Could it cause more headaches? Yes. Does it necessarily mean I'm going to make more money? Not necessarily. Do I need more money? No. If I can have a place where my office and my employees have a job to come to on a regular basis, and they have a roof over their head and food on the table and everything else, then I'm fine, right? And then that allows me to step back a little bit more and spend time with the family. I got an 8-year-old daughter. Growing up, I did not see my father so much. He was always working, right? And then when he would get home at 6 o'clock at night, he'd transfer the phones from the office to the house. So no matter what, we're sitting there, dinner, watching TV or whatnot, the phone rings, he knows it was, and it's Bargain Movers, how can I help you? I'll wait until 8, 9 o'clock at night. So that's another thing. I would always hear my father on the phone. And I think that is another thing that was ingrained in me, right? But back to like the future of where we may be going. No, I like riding this wave here. We do more with less now. And it also has to do with moving kind of up market, right? Bargain Movers has its challenges just simply from the name, right? I hear it a lot, and the whole rebrand thing is kicked around in my head for 10 years, right? But it's almost like we're known, we're recognized. Why go reinvent the wheel? And it's my father's legacy, right? And I don't want to change that now. We changed a little bit. You can see the whole logo thing we can get into, but it works. Like, we've moved up market to where the homes we move today aren't the same things like I was doing 15 years ago, which were just some of those little apartments, right? We move multi-million-dollar homes on a weekly basis today. People that entrust us, 65, 70% of what we do is all return customers or referrals these days. That's fantastic. That means we've created in an environment that not only our customers, appreciate what we do, but our employees do, because our employees are the backbone behind this operation, right? They're the ones who are the extension of my arm out there and doing the job. So when we hire people with heart. That's the number one thing I look for. Is somebody going to have heart? Because if they don't, then they're not going to care about their job. I can teach you how to do everything else, but that's not one thing. And most guys with us have been with us 5 to 10 years. I got 2 guys that are going on close to 20 years. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years from when my dad was running the place. So again, doing more with less, and not necessarily needing to do. We don't need to do 120 jobs in a month. We can do 70 and still be just as profitable. but
You
that came
mentioned
with time.
you mentioned finding team members with heart. How do you go about finding that right person with heart? What do you look out for?
Well, fortunately, here, everybody I've ever needed has walked through that front door
Really?
for the most part. Very rarely have we gone out scouting looking for people, right?
Hmm.
Occasionally we do, and we'll post something, but most of the guys know somebody or have a friend who need a job,
Hmm.
they want to come. I got a couple guys, their sons who are like 19
Hmm.
are coming to work with us, right? Um, and then when you meet them, I pretty much know within the first 30 seconds whether you're going to work for me or not. It's as simple as that. If there's a feel that I get from you and I know you're authentic, honest, and what you're portraying is not just some,
Hmm.
shit, then I'll give them an opportunity,
So it's a
right? And
gut
then it's up
feeling.
to, what's that?
He said it's a gut feeling you get.
Gut, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really a gut, it's a gut feeling. I can't say I've always been correct. I mean, I've judged incorrectly before on it, but uh, again, if they have it, you can feel it, and when they come in, you can see how they interact with people. You can see what they do in the mornings and what they're doing on a job site. That's that's what really I look at. What once you see all that, you're like, okay. And now I've got an operations manager that it really onboards them and trains them properly from the beginning, and then can go out and see what they're really doing. But we don't bring on too many new people. We might have 2 new people a year.
Okay.
Really, from just people kind of leaving, coming, going, and so forth.
From a marketing standpoint, you just mentioned earlier as far as moving up market. You started with apartments, moving apartments, now it's multi-million dollar homes. So from a marketing perspective, how have you changed that customer base? What have you been doing differently, or what are you doing now? I know you also mentioned earlier about 65+% of your customer base is all returning customers and referrals.
We did it organically. And what I mean by that is we just evolved into it. I got great people that work with me, right? And everybody was having such a great experience because what people tell me, your guys are so friendly, polite, cordial. Like, I love them. I've got clips and clips of people that, your guys were angels here today, you know, and then you reinforce that with them. You say, guys, this is fantastic. I teach them about a customer experience, not just lifting a furniture piece and moving it. It's about the experience and letting them know you create this incredible experience from the customer. We're going to have more work. We're going to have better work because they're going to talk to. So then once you start moving into different neighborhoods, they talk, you get on
Hmm.
listservs, right? And then you get on to like next door, right?
Hmm.
And then one of our greatest assets is our realtor community, our realtor partners, right? Some of these realtors that we work with today were actually referred by one of their clients that says, hey, in case you're looking for movers for your client, call Lou at Bargain Movers. These guys are incredible, right? And that's how we've collected and created these relationships with these real estate agents that, again, are selling these larger homes, right?
Hmm.
And ensuring that once we're giving them a feeling that we can ensure that your client is going to have a great experience, and they know that regardless of whatever happens, that I'm going to be accountable for and take care of it at the end of the day, because we're not all perfect, right? So you build that credibility with the realtor community, with your customers. Again, it just grows organically. It evolves from there. It wasn't the marketing wasn't any different than what we were advertising, with Angie's List, right? It
Hmm.
wasn't that. It was none of that. It was building relationships and providing quality service.
Lou, what
The
would you?
last thing,
Mhm, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, please go ahead.
I think the only the change in marketing just came in June, which is what you know our old logo and our old truck and everything. You can see this thing here behind me. We wanted a look and a feel that would really show who we are today versus the little cartoon truck and bright yellow and red. And we wanted this to invoke emotion, right? And when I saw this, I said, that is great. I love it. It gives us that feel of quality and professionalism to match what we're doing, and takes away a little bit of that stigma of, hey, bargain movers. People think bargain movers like, hey, this is cheap. Well, no, we're actually not cheap. But, and then you get a plethora of reviews behind it. There's like 600-700 reviews about us out there, right, over the years. And we maintain like over a 4.8 rating on these platforms. So that all helps kind of complete the picture. And this was the last part, that we didn't rebrand the company name, but we rebranded the company image. So I kind of did it a little in between, but so happy. And this has changed. Okay, one of the things that we do, from you're talking marketing, right? We do mailers, okay? So we get a list of homes that are listed for sale every week within a surrounding zip code area around it, right? So we send out about 150 mailers. It's a 6x9 envelope, stuff, information in there, and get it out there. We have been doing this since, it was like about a month ago, we launched the new website, new everything. The mailers that we started sending out with the new logo, new image and everything, I saw generating more calls. Yeah. Is it that image? Well, people see this versus what they were seeing before, right?
Yeah.
This is that old image here, and what we were running. So this is what it is today. It invokes a different emotion and different feel. And now that these homes are like, oh, okay, hey, these guys, let's go check them out online. Oh my gosh, 4.8, blah, blah, blah. They're rated here. Won the Angie's List Award the last 12 years. You can see, things on our website now and so forth, that they're willing to call and give us an opportunity.
So these new mailers with the new logo just started last month, and you're already seeing an uptick on the calls coming in.
Uptick on the calls from the mailers coming in. I've done mailers for about 4 years now. Don't be wrong. Last thing I thought I was ever going to do, biggest ROI there is. I'm not one to look at junk mail for me, right? But people do. And when they, homes for sale and they list it, and trust me, they get like 30 of these because every moving company does it, right? And yeah, it always worked in the past, but just in June, what we did was like, wow. Now we've never pulled that much revenue in 1 month from our mailers before. So everything we've spent on, the whole process of rebranding, relogoing, everything is already paying for itself, and then some.
And the mailer is a postcard?
The mailer is actually, we do it a little bit different. All right. A lot of people send a small postcard or the larger postcards. We take a 6x9 envelope. We have a letter to the homeowner, and then we've got our capabilities sheet, and then there's a postcard in it with a QR code to scan and get a coupon and a quote from it, right? So that's folded in there, put in there. So you actually have to physically open it to get to it. Okay. All right. So it's different than a lot of people don't do that, right? Well, this year, what we decided to do was, well, if this is our biggest ROI, and I've talked to people, like, well, Lou, how can you? People I've talked to, Lou, how can you capitalize on more of that, right? I was like, there's only so many homes for sale in our area because I don't want to send mailers to Ashburn, right? It's far away for it. People don't want to pay the travel time, blah, blah, blah. We want to concentrate in this area here, right? So what I did is I doubled down. I said, all right, well, if we're getting this, imagine what would happen if we just the next week sent just a postcard. Hey, did you get our mailer? There's a whole little saying on it or whatnot, but we created it specifically for them. So now that following week, they're going to get the postcard in the mail. Should we be capturing twice the amount of business? Well, something's working, right? and my hands start itching, that means something.
I mean, money's coming.
You got it, but don't worry, there's somebody on the other end trying to take it out of my other pocket. So, but I think that the way we do it and how we structured that is what's paying off now, you know.
And in that envelope, that first mailer that they receive in the mail, does it have the new logo or is it just?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
you want to see it?
No, I'm just curious, just in case, sometimes it's just white. They wanted to leave the intrigue and the mystery there to get it open, but I wasn't sure if you put the logo on the envelope.
Oh, no. The logo's not on the envelope, but
It's not.
There is a return address label that says Bargain Movers. So
okay.
They know it's a mover and they're like, okay, what is this? Almost intrigue opens it because everybody else is sending postcards.
Yeah, you stand out right there with just that envelope.
Like this is a mover. What are they sending me here? It feels a little thick. Okay. And then we just need them to go, visit the website or give us a call.
Yeah.
And it works.
How do you track that it's coming from that mailer? Is it the QR code, or when they call, you ask how they found about you?
We source every call. So when you call in, within the first 3 questions, so how did you hear about us?
Mm-hmm.
And we track all that. And that's where we, come up with, that's why we know like numbers of return customers versus referrals and, what our realtor partners do, and the mailers and, Angie's List and Nextdoor, because we don't spend a lot on advertising, very little. When I started into this, it was more of a grassroots campaign, meaning I was out knocking on doors, going to apartment complexes, going to storage facilities, because I didn't have any money. I didn't have an advertising budget, right?
Yeah.
And even today, we spend very little on advertising, simply because of the word of mouth that has already been out there, and we got to the crest of the wave. So I don't need to spend any more to generate another $20,000 in business. Like, there's no sense for me to why spend $10,000 to sell another $30,000 that at the end of the day, once you pay your staff, your trucks and everything, you're going to need to get it, your profit's gone. The 30, the 10, there's your 30, your 33% or whatnot, because businesses operate 20 to 30% profitability, right? Well, it's gone. So I'd rather grow it organically and get those referrals, and I do other things. Like we won't be advertising, but we'll sponsor tournaments. I've sponsored realtor appreciation dinners, right? Golf tournaments. I just did a football camp a few weeks ago with one of my realtor friends, a guy who played for the Redskins and now plays for the Bills up there, and put on a free camp in Virginia. And, we sponsored to kind of, again, give back to the community as much as we can through the people we work with, because at the end of the day, we should be thankful and grateful for everything we do have. Right.
Lou, what would you say drives and motivates you today?
Today it's different. So my mom passed away 3 years ago. Oof, sorry, man.
It's okay. Take your time.
My mom was my everything, right? So that was a real big drive for me, because what a lot of people don't know or realize is that, like, me and my mom, when we got here, when I say got here, I mean to the United States, because I was born the day after my mom got to this country, and I was born premature. My mom, she was in Spain at the time and didn't want to have me in Spain, and she wanted to come to the United States, and with nothing. There was a nurse named Angelita, Angel. Knew we had nowhere to go. She took my mom and I in. So we lived there in the basement of the house for the first 8 years of our life. And then, my father came and everything else and so forth. But like, that gave me so much perspective and respect for what my mom did, and my mom was a housekeeper. Okay, my mom cleaned houses, until she wouldn't even retire until she passed away. Like only the last couple of years did she stop, but it put things in perspective for me and to appreciate everything. And like I worked and drove so hard because I wanted to give my mom everything I could. So now what kind of shifts is my daughter and my family today. My daughter's name is Angelique. She's my little angel today. And knowing that I want to create a foundation for my family to be able to thrive from, right? Though that motivates me, wanting to create an environment where people can succeed in, that's my other motivation, right? I love when people are happy to come to work, or I can help them get to where they need to be. Whether it's my staff, my guys on the trucks that don't understand how to do everything in business and life or whatnot, and I can pull from my experiences and teach them that and help them along the way. Whether it's buying their first vehicle, purchasing a house, you name it. There are little things like that. To where even my staff here, my sales guy, when I was interviewing people, I saw potential. I saw raw potential that I could really groom. And I said, I want to give this guy an opportunity, and I'm going to teach him things that people did with me. And I want to try to help him as best I can and pull him. Completely different guy today, 2 years later, right? Sells great, has learned a lot. And that's what kind of it invigorates, motivates me today for these kinds of things, right? It's where can we be better people for the people around us? Because we live in a chaotic time, where faces are buried in our phones at all time. Our friends are on a screen, and I tell my staff, it's like, look, we're in this little sphere. Okay, this is going to be our world, and we're going to take care of each other, right? And explaining a symbiotic relationship with them, right? Because I obviously can't do anything that I do today if I don't have my staff doing what they do. They can't do what they do if I didn't start this, perform this, and kept it all together, right? And if we play in that little bubble, things will be okay, right? And that's just kind of been my mindset with this place, and making sure that, again, at the end of the day, people are just taken care of.
Lou, coming to an end here soon, what advice would you give to someone starting a new business, any type of business, whether they're providing a service or selling a product? Any pointers?
One, do your research. Okay. Thoroughly investigate the product or service that you want to get into, right? Secondly, it's a grind. You're going to have to grind this out. There is no easy way to where, if you want to be a business owner, that you're going to get there without it, right? And then one of the hardest things for me, delegate as soon as possible, right? Because we as business owners have control issues. And we need to understand that it's okay that somebody does something to the 80% of your ability, and it's going to be all right. That was one of the hardest things that I had to learn. And, again, now I've got 15 years later, I've got the people in place to do it all. Right. But those things, and continue to improve yourself. Like, read, right? Reading is what's going to probably get you there instead of watching videos. We can all sit on TikTok, Instagram, 30-second videos. But a friend of mine wrote in a book to me a long time ago, Lou, you will become more like the people you surround yourself with and the books you read within a year's time. Started really reading, hanging out with different people that year. And boy, my life was different. And it's those little moments that people just touch in your life that teach you those things. But if you're not able to receive them and take them in, then it's just not, it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, it's so true. What's your biggest challenge with your role at Bargain Movers today?
Letting everybody do their job.
The micromanaging part again.
Yeah, man. You know, I got to be honest. Thankfully, there aren't too many challenges, right? Because we're at a point today where everything we've worked for the last 15 years is come to accumulate a point where it's functioning,
Yeah.
right? Um, so, you know, my challenge is, I'll say this, is that I worry about, because this is cyclical business, right? Summertime, we're up, and then we get down in the wintertime. Always ensuring that I have work for all my guys, right? That's a challenge in the off season, and that's what I work to create these relationships to even in the off season be busy. And the last couple of years it's been great. We've been busy throughout the whole year, but we'll see what happens with the market now. But those are my real own challenges. Challenges to get out of here and go spend some time with the family. Because if everything I did was for that, then I need to leave the office and go and spend that time with the family.
Yeah. What do you know now? What would you say you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your career?
People are going to come and go, okay, throughout your company, throughout your life. But with employees and staff and so forth, understand that and be okay with it. Okay. It's not the end of the world. That was very hard for me to learn the first few years, because when you lost a good driver or you lost an office person here, right? Something like, oh man, it's not the end of the world. That is, as a business owner, your job is not just whatever business you're in, you're a problem solver. There's a problem, your job to get the solution. Problem, solution. That is a business owner for you, right? And understanding that your business is not going to be crippled because one or two people decide they want to go somewhere else. There's always something there to replace, maybe different or so forth. But that'd be one of the biggest things.
Lou, I know you've mentioned family and your daughter. When you're not busy working and running the business, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Well, let's just say that midlife crisis stuff is real, okay? Because once you start hitting close to 50, you start realizing, what am I doing here? So I went and bought a Harley. So I am out on my motorcycle when I can. All right. Hop on, enjoy. I used to ride a motorcycle in college. So it'd been 20, close to 30, 25 years since I had ridden a motorcycle, but I did that. So I enjoy riding my Harley. And now I've picked up golf again after 15 years. And I try to get out there and practice some of that. So if I can do that, if I'm not with the family, then that's where I like to spend my time.
Did you also get the black leather jacket or vest with the Harley logo in the back?
Oh, I got it all, man. The jacket, the pants. I got to dress properly, man, because I mean, you got to dress for the fall, not for the ride. Like you got to have protective gear, man. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. My wife and daughter, they're like waiting to get on with me. They're like, when are we going to take? I was like, well, I need to get the backrest for you. I got to get the pegs here for you. And I'm like, they're just excited about it. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Now it's just me with nerves about, my family, my daughter or my wife on the back of my motorcycle.
Nice. Lou, if people want to learn more about you and Bargain Movers, where can they find out more information? Where can they learn more?
The best place would be our website, bargainmoversinc.com. There's a wealth of information out there, or, feel free to, give us a call here at the office. And we're more than happy to help out any way we can.
Thank you so much for coming, buddy. You had an awesome time.
Thanks, Otto. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.